Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. St. Vincent on alert as seismic activity increases at La Soufriere. This story takes the lead in our 1018th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 31st December 2020. Details when we return. Welcome back. On this our last edition of Caribbean Perspective for 2020, residents of St. Vincent and the Grenadines were warned to stay away from La Soufriere volcano after increased seismic activity was detected in the dome over the weekend. Volcanologists Dr. Eurosil Pat Joseph and Professor Richard Robertson of the University of the West Indies Seismic Research Center joined Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves in a live address to the nation on Tuesday evening to provide an update on the activity. This is what we call an effusive eruption going on at Soufriere, which essentially means magma is coming slowly out of the earth and building a dome, Robertson said. It is similar to what occurred in 1971-72, after which the volcano went dormant. La Soufriere last had an explosive eruption in March 1979, and the ash rained on parts of Barbados. Robertson said there was minor seismic activity in November and again on December 16th and 23rd, but on December 27th, a NASA satellite detected a hot spot in the crater. They contacted the National Emergency Management Organization NEMO and arranged for the Soufriere Monitoring Unit to visit the site on Tuesday. The magma is slowly building on the existing dome. Robertson said sulfur-rich gases will be released into the atmosphere and warned residents to stay away from the area at this time. He said there is not enough data to determine whether it will continue to slowly build or activity will increase to the point where there is an explosive eruption. In the meantime, they will continue to monitor the situation and working in conjunction with NEMO will put more equipment to collect data. During the briefing, Gonsalves received correspondence from Trinidad and Tobago's Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, giving clearance for Robertson and two others to leave the Twin Island Republic, where the SRC is located, to go to St. Vincent. Gonsalves said once they had the COVID tests, an aircraft from Barbados-based regional security system would collect the team and equipment. Robertson said he hoped there would be enough time to alert citizens in the danger zone so they can be evacuated ahead of any major event. In other news, since it was first discovered in England, a number of other people have tested positive with the new strain of COVID-19 virus in other countries. Chief Medical Officer of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Roshan Parasram, recently said Trinidad and Tobago's borders remaining closed doesn't guarantee the new strain will be kept out. With COVID-19 vaccination now underway in the US and the UK, Dr. Parasram also commented on those already developed vaccines coming up against the new strain. Urvashitawari Rupnarayan of TV6 News has this report.
Well, since it was first discovered in England, a number of other people have tested positive with the new strain of the COVID-19 virus in other countries. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Roshan Parasram tells sister station I-95.5 FM today TNT's borders remaining closed does not guarantee the new strain will be kept out.
And when we looked at the WHO bulletin already said that it was in a number of countries, picked up in a number of other territories, a number of current countries in Europe, as well as South Africa. Our borders, we have kept our borders closed to try to keep new strains out as well. But again, we have repatriation going on and we have other forms of migration occurring. So there's always a possibility that, it can come in from another area or even with the repatriated nationals.
With the COVID-19 vaccination now underway in the US and the UK, Dr. Parasram also commented on those already developed vaccines coming up against the new strain.
Mutated, a virus is significantly mutated. What is used to develop a vaccine is the existing form of that virus. So if there's a significant mutation, then of course the efficacy of the vaccine is called into there to see, what will be the new efficacy for this particular strain. So that is concerning because we're now in the stages of new vaccines being rolled out across UK and US. So we have to watch and see. The vaccine manufacturer Pfizer at least has indicated that they are looking at the new strain, and they could potentially tweak their mRNA vaccine in the labs to deal with the variant that has occurred.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
The sum of $2.5 billion has been approved in the National Assembly in Guyana on Monday as a supplementary amount to continue the COVID-19 cash grant distribution exercise in Region 4. This forms part of the sum of 18 billion Guyanese dollars requested by the government in the National Assembly on Monday. HGP's Wendell Badri report.
During intense scrutiny, the Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Vindhya Prasad, revealed that some 153,376 households have received their cash grants thus far, while at least 9 regions are almost completed.
9 regions have almost been completed, and the remaining region is Region 4 that is ongoing. Of course, the Honorable Member is aware of the second phase, which involves the pink slips, and also there is the ongoing process within those regions to mop up in the sense going back to home that may have been missed on the first round.
The minister also revealed that at least 16,375 households are in receipt of the pink slips, while the exercise is yet in phase 1. Questioned by members of the opposition benches concerning allegations of discriminatory distribution and irregularities, the minister posited.
Mr. Chair, if at all, any community was inadvertently missed, they have the option of going to the NDC office and it will be addressed. Because we do want to capture everyone, because COVID-19 has hit and hit hard.
Sums requested for the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs totaling $130 million, which will be used for the purchase of tractors and trailers in the hinterland communities, as well as a $4 billion payout to Gaisuko, and $407 million earmarked for enhancing food security during the global pandemic under the Ministry of Agriculture, were also approved by the House after scrutiny. During the morning session of the Assembly, the sum of $600 million was passed for the Ministry of Public Works to facilitate payments for roadworks to be carried out by that agency. Sums were also approved for the Ministries of Housing and Water, Finance, and the Ghana Defence Force. Meanwhile, also in the morning hours, the Assembly cleared an advance sum of $4.15 billion, which was drawn from the contingency fund sometime between June and December 2019 under the APNU AFC government. Scrutiny of that sum showed spending for emergency works in Regions 2, 4, 5, and 6 to reduce flooding under the Ministry of Agriculture, $40 million to repair 2 generators of the Port Kaituma Power and Lighting Cooperated, $1.7 billion for sea defense works from Fairfield to Danzig, as well as emergency sea defense works in Blankenberg, Retrieve, Leguan, and Wakanam under the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
But Wendell Badri tells us Guyana's leader of the opposition, Joseph Harmon, is accusing the PPPC of squandermania as they sought to approve some Guyanese $17 billion through the National Assembly 3 days before the end of the financial year.
Harmon deemed the move by the PPP administration as ludicrous, noting that it comes 3 days before the end of the financial year.
It is therefore outrageous, and there's no way that the PPP regime can legitimately expend $17.4 billion in 3 days. Why the rush? Why the rush? When it is public knowledge that the 2021 budget is due in February.
He also pointed out that there is a request for approval of some $792 million from the contingency fund, which has already allegedly been spent sometime between October and December 2020.
This is despicable. As you recall, the PPP budget, the much-touted budget for 2020, where they praised themselves in bringing a budget so quickly and so thoroughly, that was only passed in September of this year. How could it be then that less than a month after the budget was approved, the PBP ran out of money.
A perusal of financial paper number 1 for 2020, which covers the period October 1st to December 21st, reveals that $792 million is being requested for a number of government agencies, inclusive of the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, Ministry of Agriculture, as well as the Ministry of Home Affairs. Meanwhile, financial paper number 2, which covers the period January 1st to December 31st, 2020, requests funds to the tune of 17.4 billion Ghana dollars being doled out to the Ministries of Finance, Amerindian Affairs, Agriculture, Public Works, Human Services and Social Security, as well as Housing and Water. In financial paper number 1, $53 million is being requested by the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs to facilitate payment of uniform allowances to students in Regions 1, 7, 8, and 9. The Ministry of Agriculture has requested $186 million to facilitate urgent repairs to agricultural access dams in Regions 2, 3, and 5, as well as to undertake urgent drainage works to the MMA ADA in Region 5, and for other works to sluice doors, sea dams, etc., in the Grove Diamond area. Repairs to sea dams in Danzig has already been earmarked for reparatory works. In financial paper number 2 of 2020, an additional $2.5 billion was requested by the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security for payment of the COVID-19 household distribution exercise, while $1.7 billion was earmarked for the Ghana Defence Force as a final payment in the acquisition of a Bell 412 helicopter to help increase the capacity of the force to conduct aerial operations. During the presentation of the 2020 budget in September, $18.4 billion was earmarked for the agricultural sector, $3 billion for housing, $38.9 billion for security, $51.7 billion for the health sector, and $34.4 billion for infrastructure. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
Antigua and Barbuda's Health Minister Sir Malwin Joseph commented during a recent media briefing on the over 900 people in self-quarantine.
And most of them are coming for Christmas vacation. And we want to send a message that they have to be responsible and they cannot, within the 14-day quarantine, be having parties and going all over the village.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.